Hi guys, it's Cassandra. This is A24 Corner where I watch, review, discuss A24 movies, and today we're doing I Saw the TV Glow. And wow guys, this movie was depressing. Like so depressing. I want to start off by saying that I am a hetero person. I didn't know that this movie was about transgender lives. It was very abstract. I think it can be many things and not just for trans people, but I think it was a trans queer story at its core. The director is trans. This is Jane Schonbrun, I think. And she did I Saw the World's Fair, like We're All Going to the World's Fair, which was another A24 movie. In the horror category, this movie is considered a horror, but I think it's more like psycho claustrophobia. Like it kind of breaks genres, which I said that about Love Lies Bleeding, but this one I wouldn't have considered it horror, even though that's what people considered it. So the soundtrack was by Phoebe Bridgers and it was so good. I really do love it. They had a Smashing Pumpkins cover, which was awesome. Um, Beautiful soundtrack, beautiful colors. It kind of just stayed with like this purple yellow color scheme. So let's just jump into it because I'm not gonna go too much into too many details because this movie was very airy. In other words, there wasn't a lot of dialogue a lot of the time, so it was just things that were happening. So we start with young Owen, and young Owen is watching a commercial for the pink opaque. So there he is. He's so cute. He's going to school. He's like in middle school at this point, and his parents are experiencing a divorce. So his mom's super kind, super sweet. She's just kind of like his main caregiver, and he's just going through this weird time where he's very young and his parents are divorcing. So he walks away from the assembly that's going on and he sees a girl reading the book The Pink Opaque, and this is where we're introduced to Maddie for the first time. And Maddie immediately connects with him because she can sense a sadness within him, because he's like, oh, are your parents divorced too? And she's like, no, I just hang out here because I can use the dark room. She's like a photographer, I'm guessing. But we never really see her do any photography, just a random tidbit. So she's like, oh, kind of sees his loneliness and is like, hey, do you want to like tell your parents you're sleeping over your friend's house and just come over my house and watch The Pink Opaque? Because he's like, I can't watch this show because it comes on at 10:30 and I have a bedtime at 9:30. And she kind of mentions like, oh, my parents don't give a crap when I go to sleep. So she has parents who don't really engage with her or like care for her well-being. I'm guessing that's kind of like what is the air of this. It's very much based on the child's psychology. Like we don't really see the parents that often, but we hear them in the background. So yeah, so she's like shows him the book and like it outlines the episodes, and he's like, oh, so I'll come over your house then. I'll tell my family that I'll tell my parents that I'm sleeping over my friend's house, and then I'll walk to your house. So she's like, yeah, come. So we have some scenes of him just like in school, and they have like this tent. This movie is meant to be very nostalgic, like 90s nostalgia. The way that it's filmed, the content, just the way that people are interacting with each other, it just feels very 90s. So we have this iconic floating tent scene that any kid from the 90s remembers. But we just get this air of like Owen is not a regular kid. He's not engaging with the kids around him. He doesn't really have emotions. He's very stoic. And that's just not normal, right? So he lies to his mom. He says, I'm gonna go sleep over this kid's house, and his mom drives away, and he leaves the house that she dropped him off at and starts walking to Maddie's house. And when he arrives, Maddie's there with her girlfriend, and they're watching The Pink Opaque, and he watches it for the first time. And there's like these scary scenes. It's like a show about these girls who fight evil, like evil monsters. And there's like this ice cream guy, super creepy. And then afterwards, she's like, "Were you scared? Like, it was scary, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, I guess it was okay." But like the girls, like he kind of said something wrong about the show, and she's like, "No, that's not what happened." And he's like, "I'm sorry." So you can just see that he's like more timid and reserved, and she says like, "Don't apologize. They'll come back." So we get the scenes, and all of a sudden he grows up. It's like 8 years past. This is his whole life. So it says 2 years later. And 2 years later, now he is in ninth grade, because when he first met Maddie, he was in sixth grade. So now he's in ninth grade. Or like he was in seventh grade. I don't know. Now he's in ninth grade. And his mom is going through cancer. So we see she's bald here. And she's kind of the only mother figure in his life, and just trying to take care of him. It's very dark. It's sad. He doesn't talk that much. She's telling him, like, I don't know, the conversations just seem so muffled when I reflect. I mean, I saw this movie just yesterday, but the conversations weren't really about what the movie was about, because he is just so introverted. So he's like, "Can I stay up late and watch Pink Opaque?" And he's in the car with his mother and his father is like, "That's for girls." So you already have this homophobia, right, from the father. And the mother's like, "Not today." He's like, "I'm in ninth grade. Like, why do I have a bedtime? No one in ninth grade has a bedtime." And she's like, "Another time, sweetheart." So they're just very controlling over him. Anyway, because he can't stay up late to watch the shows, Maddie leaves in the photo room. She leaves VHS recordings of the shows so that he can watch them. And so she does that for him, and he watches them by himself. If his parents like were to walk into the room, he immediately takes it out. Like, he just doesn't want, I guess, his father to see that he watches the show about these two girls who fight crime, right? It's for girls. And his father is very absent. Like, even when they show visions of him or any type of scene with him, it's like just half of his face, or he's just not really there. And he's always consumed by the television as well. So we don't really get to see his father that often. So he watches the girls. It's like Tara and I forgot the other character's name, but these are just snippets, and it's very Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque. Like, it just feels like 90s television, and they're like these psychic girls that they just get each other and they are fighting evil. So he goes up to Maddie, and like, look how far apart they're sitting from each other. It's like she doesn't even want people to know that she knows him, and he's just kind of awkward, and he's like, "Hey," and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Are you still watching Pink Opaque on Saturdays with your friend?" And it's a very Napoleon Dynamite moment where Maddie's just like, "God, I'm not her friend. She told everyone I touched her tits." It's just such a random moment, but the movie has like fun, awkward moments like that, where you can kind of see where the director was inspired by, other movies and film and stuff. And she's just like, "I don't talk to that girl anymore. Now she's a cheerleader." And he's like, "Can I go over to your house and watch it again?" And she's like, "Oh, well, you know that I'm, into girls. Like, I'm not into guys." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then she's like, "Well, what are you into? Are you into girls? Are you into guys?" And he's like, "I'm into TV." So he doesn't really know what he's into, because again, he's lived such a sheltered life from his parents and darkness. Like, everything is just so darkly filmed in his house. There's no light in his house, and neither in Maddie's. So she's like, "Fine, you can come over." So he does the whole thing, like, "I'm gonna sleep over this guy's house," but really goes to Maddie's house, and they watch the Pink Opaque. And Maddie is like obsessed with this show. She's having these good guttural reactions while watching it. Like, she cries while watching it. And Owen is just like emotionless most of the time. He's very stoic. He's just kind of there with Maddie watching her. He doesn't try to comfort her. And Maddie just tells him, like, I can't live here anymore, because her house, you can kind of hear like arguing upstairs. Like, she doesn't come from a happy home either. So she's like, if I stay here any longer, like, I'm gonna die. Like, I can't live like this anymore. I need to move. And she's like, come tomorrow. These are just scenes from the Pink Opaque. So they have like the ghosts in the back of their necks, and she has that connection with him. And they, okay, so in this episode that they're watching, they're trying to defeat Melancholy, Mr. Melancholy, and Mr. Melancholy literally looks like the moon from Zelda. Like, that's literally what he looks like. I couldn't find a still from that, so I just got a still from the Zelda video game, Majorca's Mask. But that's what he looks like. And so that's what the episode that they're fighting, like, Mr. Melancholy. She draws the ghost behind his neck and is just like, tomorrow, meet me here. We're going to run away together. And, you know, this freaks him out. He's like so sheltered, and he goes to the bathroom, like tries to scrub the marker off of his neck. And then he goes to the house that he's been lying to his parents that he's sleeping over, and the mom opens the door. It's like, oh, Justin's not here right now. And he's just crying. He's like, please don't let her take me. Please don't let her take me. Like, please tell my dad that I've been lying to him. Get me in trouble. Like, basically get me in trouble with my father so that I get grounded and I don't have to leave with her. Like, he gets very scared that he's gonna, you know, run away. So the woman's like, oh my God, are you good? Like, brings him inside. And Maddie runs away, and she's gone. And all there is like her TV is on fire, and that's all she left. So Maddie left. And Owen is distraught by this, but not really. Like, he doesn't cry or anything. He's just like, oh, she's gone. Like, again, Owen is just kind of like going through life like a ghost. And I think that that's part of the whole thing about the ghost, the lonely ghost tattoo or whatever. And it's just like, I'm just like going through life like as a ghost. And so he's like, she's gone. And then we have a big jump where it's like, you know, 8 years later. So he is now like in his 20s, I guess, and he's working at a movie theater. And it's just like, he's still awkward as can be. He has like these coworkers who were like hooking up in the back room, and then afterwards the guy was like, do you like what you see? Do you like what you see? You want me to get Erica to do something for you? She likes you. She thinks you're cute. And he's just like awkwardly looking down, and the guy's like, why aren't you looking at me? Like, look at me. So you just see that he doesn't fit in. Like, people bully him and stuff, especially men bully him because he's just such a like meek target. And mind you, we're going through all of this. So we haven't really figured out what's this movie's even about, right? We're like, okay, what's happening here? Like, dude likes to watch this show with this girl disappears. He's just, now it's 8 years later. Like, there's such a weird, the movie jumps in such a weird way. So yeah, he, after work, he gets home, he's driving home, and there's like this power line that's down. And this tree had fallen, and he just sees the power lines like going crazy, and he's like picks up this paper, and it's about the Pink Opaque, like a book of the Pink Opaque, and he thinks of Maddie again. And he's just like, oh, it's so weird. He gets home, his dad's watching TV, and he's like, Dad, I'm sorry I was late. Like, his mom passed away from cancer. So at this point, it's just him and his dad. His house is dark. He's like, Dad, I'm sorry I was late. There was a tree down or whatever. And his dad just stares at him like this. Like, he's just staring at him like, it was so creepy. And you just see like his father is just not comforting, not just a vacant man, but he also looks like Mr. Melancholy. Right? So his dad's played by Fred Durst, the Nookie. Okay, I'm like, what is Fred Durst doing in this movie? That is so random. Like, Fred Durst is an actor, Limp Bizkit, but yeah, that's him. So whatever, moving on. He's shopping at the grocery store, and Maddie appears 8 years later. He sees Maddie. He's like, oh my God. She's just standing there like a weirdo, just staring at him. And he like runs up to hug her. And he's like, Maddie, where have you been? Like, what the hell? And she's just like, I need to talk to you. I'm gonna tell you everything. So it's just like this really dark moment. And they go to this bar, and at the bar, Phoebe Bridgers is playing, and they're playing like music or playing. And while this is happening, she's talking to him. She's like, remember that show we used to watch? This is in the trailer. So in the trailer, she's saying like, do you really think it was just a show? Like, was it really just a show? And he's like, yeah, it totally was. She's like, what do you remember when you're watching it? Like, what do you remember? And then we get flashbacks of him dressing up like a girl. And this is where you get that moment of just like, okay, wait a second. Were they watching TV or were they cosplaying as these characters? And that's what was happening. Like, they were watching the show and then they would cosplay as the characters. So he was the one girl and she was the other girl. And they had this psychic connection with each other. And so he's kind of like trying to erase that. He's like, no, like, no. And she's like, yes, like, you have to come with me. You can't stay here any longer. We have to go back. We're these characters in this movie. Like, we're in the show. We're the characters in the show. We have to be who the characters are. And he's just like, you're being crazy. She's like, meet me at the school at this time. So time passes. He goes to meet her at the school. He like packs everything, goes to meet her at the school, and she has this long monologue, and it's just this long monologue about how she went to Phoenix, Arizona. She worked at Build-A-Bear. She met a guy there and he buried her. I think this has to do, I don't know if it's like a rape thing or she tried to date a guy, like tried to kind of like shield her lesbianism. And there's like some metaphor there where the guy buried her and like packed the dirt really tight. But it's just this very long monologue of her telling him, like, after he buried her, she remembered who she was and that she was the girl from the TV show. And so she like clawed her way out of this dirt, found both of their hearts, because in the TV show, Mr. Melancholy like takes the hearts of the girls and it ends. So he's like, she found both of their hearts. And before she put her heart back in, she knew she had to come back and save him. So that's why she's there, to help save him. But, you know, Owen's not ready for this. And he just like tells her, no, like, I can't go with you. And then Maddie disappears again. And he decides to watch the tapes again. And while he's watching them, he has this flashback that he is meant to be in the show. Like, he is the person in the show. So that's all. This part is also in the trailer, and it's like the guy's full, like Owen's full head's in the TV, and he's screaming, trying to go into the pink opaque, and his father pulls him out. And then we get kind of like this very dark scene of the father basically like drowning him in a bathtub, which again, we're like getting these small tidbits of like abuse at home, and like just abuse. His father abuses him basically. So that's very sad. And after this, a long time passes again. Mind you, while his father is like trying to drown him in the bathtub, he's having like this episode, and he's screaming, "You're not my father! This is not my life! This is not who I am!" So yeah, it was like a very dark moment. And then suddenly he, it says 20 years later. I'm telling you, this movie, the way that it jumps, it's like, what? 20 years pass, and now he's working at an arcade. His father passed away. He had a stroke, and he lives in the house. Apparently he has a family, like children and a wife, and he's working at this arcade. And then there's like, okay, it's the birthday, happy birthday, and they're singing happy birthday. And he is like decrepit, because I'm trying to do the math here. I'm like, 20 years later, like 8 years, 20, like there's no way you're dying. Like, you're not old and dying at this point, but he's dying. Like, he's young him, but dying. And I don't know, in this picture you can kind of see like his lips are all chapped, his skin is like sagging, his hair is gray, but he must be like 40 maybe at this point. And he can't breathe properly. He has like asthma, and he's like, it's just really sad, like he's dying. And that's kind of like what happened in the show. Like they're like, you're buried, you're dying. So he's like at this birthday party, and they're singing happy birthday to the kid, and then suddenly he just starts screaming, like manically screaming. And that's the scene with little birthday party hat. And when he's screaming, no one's reacting. Like everyone's just quiet looking down, and he's just, it's like a symbol of like he's suffering so much from not being able to be who he is. And time is passing, like it's this kid's birthday, he sees time passing, and he's just like screaming on the inside basically, because he cannot be himself, right? And that's where this kind of relates to that trans story, right? Where yeah, he just has this shame of who he really is, and he has to live a lie, and he has to kill himself. Like you literally die because you're never gonna live being your true self. So you basically kill your true self. And so at this point, he has this freak out, whatever. He goes to the bathroom, and while he's in the bathroom, he gets a box cutter and he like cuts open his chest. And when he opens his chest, it's like a TV in there, like the lights of a TV. And he kind of like smiles because he has these moments of remembering who he's supposed to be. And then the comfort of just staying who he is, which is just this guy, regular guy. Like I'm just a regular guy walking by with a family and working. And as he's walking, he goes back outside. He found the comfort. Oh, this is who I am. Closes himself up, goes out to the arcade, and he's just apologizing to everyone. Like, sorry about before. And no one's reacting, like no one cares. And then that's the end of the movie. I'm telling you, it was so depressing. It was like so dark. I don't know. I kind of want to cry, like thinking about it, because if that's how these trans people, or like people who can never really show who they are because there's a stigma of who they are, like whether you're queer, trans, all of those stigmas that really keep you hidden, like in a closet. And this movie was just this slow burn of that, just like this slow burn of ever since you're little, some things were off with you and no one understands it, and you can never really be yourself. And there are people who try to help you, like Maddie, and Maddie was trying to help him, trying to take him out, trying to accept him. But he was never ready to do that. Like no matter what, he couldn't do that. So Maddie moved on. Like Maddie's like, I'm getting out of this town. I'm gonna be myself. And that's what it takes a lot of the times. Like there was a lot of kids from my high school who everyone kind of knew, like, hey, they're, they must be gay or lesbian or whatever, but they would still date women or like refuse to acknowledge that part of them. And then they went to college and like left the city, and now they're gay and they're happy and they're joyful and they're like living their true selves. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this getting out of your comfort zone to then be able to just start new, start fresh somewhere else. Like that's something that I think the director's trying to say, like, is a way that you can kind of go back to being who you want to be. I don't know. It was so sad. I didn't realize that the movie was going to be about this, but that was the subject matter. Yeah. Anyway, it's my birthday on Friday, so I'm going to get that Euphoria book. And next week, I'm gonna watch another A24 movie. I don't know which one though. Probably an old one, because I don't think anyone's coming out anytime soon. But yeah. Thank you so much. Leave your thoughts below. Like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. But yeah, I'm just doing this for fun for me because I watch a lot of movies and this is fun for me. So Like and subscribe and say how you feel below and how you felt when you left this movie, because I felt just so heartbroken after I saw it. But yeah, thank you. Bye.